Welcome to this episode of Worldwide Canadian. Today I'm going to tell you the 6 reasons not to buy an electric car. Stick around. So we all love a little clickbait. Today I'm going to tell you all the reasons that I hear people say you should not buy an electric car. But I'm also going to tell you how I answer them. This video could be a bit longer, but it'll be worth it. So here are the common things that I hear. Let's get started. There are not enough chargers in my community or province, so I can get to where I want to go. First, that is flatly not true. The issue is when you think like a gas car owner, you believe it is true because you don't see many DC fast chargers when you're out for a drive. Right now, I'm going to use my province of Nova Scotia as an example. There are fast chargers installed all along the major highways in the province, and over the last few months, I've traveled every area of the province from Sydney, Nova Scotia to Yarmouth, and from the South Shore to the Valley and in between. I've always made it safely home and had no issues with charging. I go prepared and educated in what the route is I'm going to be on and where I will charge and how much charge that I need. Of course, that is made easier by the fact that I have level 2 charging at home and I leave home with a full battery giving me 300 to 400 kilometers of range depending on which of the 2 electric cars that I own that I take on the trip. I drive 4,000 kilometers on average every month and I never worry about finding a place to charge. So what happens if the charger is in use or it takes longer to charge? I just like to get to where I want to go in one drive. Well, with gas, I don't have to stop as much. I hear those things a lot, and then I ask the people where they go and how often, to which they reply, I've not gone on a long trip since last summer. One person said they went to PEI, which is a 5-hour drive. I then asked, do you stop for a break? And they seem to want to tell me, no, they just go for the entire trip in one drive. I know most people don't do that. They drive 2 hours and they stop and then drive again and have a few quick stops, which is perfect for that electric car driver. I can drive 3 hours and stop and charge for 20 minutes and drive another 2 hours and arrive with just that 30-minute stop to get out, stretch my legs, use the facilities, have a tea and a snack, and continue on my way as I charge. I plan on that. My idea of torture is sitting for 5 hours in a car without a break. If I have to stop to charge, it makes my road trip better for me. Most people drive more than the range of their cars a few times a year, but somehow it seems to be a common complaint when talking about buying an EV. It really isn't. One thing I also hear is EVs cost way too much for the average person. Well, that's not really accurate either. The average car purchase price for both gas and electric has been on the rise since COVID, and it's really higher for all cars. And for the electric car, it can be between $50,000 and $60,000 for the upfront cost. The cost of those large SUVs and trucks we all see on the road by the thousands can far exceed that price too. Then you have the price to fill it with gas, and that can be quite costly as well. Not to mention those oil changes and regular maintenance, meaning that the so-called lower-cost gas car costs you more in the long run than you bargained for. The total cost of ownership is actually less when you take into account all of those costs. And not many people I know buy a car outright, and with the government providing rebates of as much as $8,000 in Nova Scotia as an example, it helps to lower that upfront cost and get you into that new EV. For me, I buy a slightly used car with low kilometers, so my EV was even lower cost than that. Well, something else I hear is that the EV is actually worse for the environment. Those huge batteries are horrible, and don't get us started on those poor kids in other parts of the world sweating the day away in those cobalt mines. Well, this is not really accurate either. And I don't see too many people not using their cell phones, which have batteries in them, which are lithium ion and have the same requirements for precious metals. By the way, Canada has just been designated as a world leader in lithium mining, and it has a bright future as a supplier to the world for lithium, and most new chemistries for batteries won't require cobalt at all. Canada happens to have every element that is needed to produce a supply of EV batteries, and the industry is growing every year to provide those needed components to produce those batteries. When you look at Nova Scotia, Dalhousie is home to a research lab finding the best options for new chemistries for batteries, and world-renowned battery scientist Jeff Dawn is headquartered right here in Halifax at Dalhousie. He's the man with a contract to oversee battery research for Tesla Motors, so he knows a thing or two about how the battery is made right here in Canada and how they will offer great alternatives. We also have a world-leading battery recycling company right here in Canada who can reclaim more than 90% of the components that are then recycled and make new batteries with without any problems. Also, our EV batteries are not always thrown away or recycled until after they have a long life in the car and then as backup storage for homes and solar arrays. Then the only complaint that I hear from that Canadian company to recycle batteries is not enough supply so they can ramp up to their full capacity. The future is bright in Canada. When you look at the facts alone on any reputable study, it shows the emissions from producing an EV with a 300 to 400 kilometer range battery is more than half as much than the gasoline engine or diesel engine car over its lifespan. And that's with our grid in Nova Scotia currently only made up of 55% green energy. So every time we get an increase in green energy, that EV gets greener and greener. Also, we're not burning gas and spewing out particulates that prematurely kill thousands of Canadians and cost millions in healthcare costs for respiratory diseases and other health harms from burning fuels in our car. That should be enough of a reason for us to move away from gas cars. Well, another one I hear is our power grids will buckle and can't keep up with the demand from EVs charging. Well, that's not necessarily true according to Nova Scotia Power. They say they will have no issues with cars at all. They know that more than 75% of vehicles do charge at home overnight when the demand is lower, and the fact that those EVs will buy that electricity that is generated overnight instead of having it exported to the US at a loss means EVs are working to balance the grid and make it more profitable so Nova Scotia Power can continue to build new green energy. With regards to all those coal and oil generating stations, they're coming to the end of their useful lifespan and won't be replaced with coal or oil, but more green energy and hydroelectric generation, and that'll allow the grid to handle the needs of the many EVs that are being added to the grid. As for DC fast chargers, those will be added to the grid over time, and they will expand capacity as they are. Again, not many people rely exclusively on DC fast chargers, as they are used when you take those trips occasionally and exceed the range of your vehicle. This is rarely for the majority of people, and surveys show as much as 75% of charging happens at home. This is a fact, and it is what people have been saying for years. Do you remember back when heat pumps were new and people started ditching those oil furnaces in Nova Scotia? We heard the same cry of how can our grid handle it, and we were all just fine. We just need to look at places like Quebec and Norway that have accelerated installation of street charging as an example, and they are doing just fine. In Norway, more than 90% of new cars bought have been electric for the past 2 years, and they have a similar situation to places like Nova Scotia. Something else I hear a lot is winter cold means charging is slow and your car won't give you enough range to make it where you want to go. Well, again, most people drive surprisingly small numbers of kilometers per day. For most, it is well below the range of their cars, and with charging at home, it's not really an issue. There is, however, a reduction in range due to cold temperatures because we run our heaters and keep ourselves warm, and physics means it takes more effort for the car to push through cold air in the winter. That range can drop by 20 to 30% in their cars, and that's for cars that are available on the road today. That means, for example, the range in my Bolt is 350 kilometers, and it's 290 in the winter in my Ioniq 5. This is perfectly fine, as I can go to, say, my son's house 2 hours away, charge for 20 minutes at the fast charger, and then make it home, and it costs me about $8 for the 400-kilometer trip. I do this maybe once a month. I also go 200 kilometers on Mondays and Wednesdays to go to Halifax and then back home, and I do this only charging at home overnight. So that costs me about $4 per day. So winter weather is an issue, but it does not mean that the EV cannot meet my needs, and it still does this, saving me money. You see, I save about $3,600 a year, and I drive 4,000 kilometers per month. That is just a fact. Well, that's it for the reasons that I hear not to buy an EV. What do you think? Comment below in the comment section, and please keep it civil. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll do my best to respond. If you think this video is worth watching, please like and subscribe and click on that bell icon so you can be notified when I upload new content. Thanks for watching. See you next time right here on Worldwide Canadian.